Wow, we are looking at some live pictures right now, ladies and gentlemen, from the University of Texas, where protesters are gathering. You now have the police coming in at this very moment. I wanted to bring this to you before we got to any of the other big stories that we're covering, because this is, again, just symbolic right now, a very, very big moment in time. We've seen this happen at universities across America, at Columbia University, my own alma mater, at Yale University, and at NYU, and now here, University of Texas. You can see the police there going right in, trying to push back the students. They are there on horses, and I can only imagine what the students are going to say after the fact. Of course, we heard from Ilhan Omar's daughter just, yesterday on MSNBC, trying to insist that somehow they were using chemical weapons and sprays on the students. It turned out to be nothing of the sort. Anyway, there will be a lot of frustration among the student body, perhaps among the faculty as well. But UT taking a stand here. Don't forget, UT is the school, University of Texas, that just the other day said, you know what, we're getting rid of our DEI department. We don't need DEI, thank you very much. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're going to have all these people, these administrators, busy with their DEI stuff, go back to actually teaching, because that's what they were hired to do. And we don't need to pay them hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to be ginning up this kind of stuff that you're seeing on the ground at this moment in time. So it looks as though there's hundreds of students there. This is really kind of just appalling. I look at this and I'm stunned. I'm not, because the reality is, when you teach that you are allowed to hate if the other side does not agree with you, when you teach that lack of empathy, when you teach a refusal to actually have dialogues, then this is what you get. And these kids have been corrupted. They've been corrupted by teachers that have been trying to push an agenda, right? And that agenda is anti-American. Let's face it, it's anti-American, it's anti-Israel, it's anti-European, because the Europeans, the Americans, we're the big colonists that came over and took over everything, and nobody gets a chance because of us. And they teach these kids to hate themselves, and in doing so, they're destroying America from within. What is this generation going to be? If you don't believe in America, how are you ever going to defend America? Think of that. You want a strong military? Hey, Joe Biden, you're sending all these weapons over to Ukraine. You want to have some sharp elbows? You're not going to have anybody to go out there and defend this country, because you and your wokeness and your party have basically become extremists that hate this country. We know that Black Lives Matter, this is the same crowd, by the way. Black Lives Matter, same darn crowd. Brought to us by AP, incidentally. I want to give them a credit here. This is the Associated Press feed that we're watching there on their YouTube channel. And you can see, again, these kids getting carried away by the police. I'll tell you, good for UT. Columbia University promised last night that if the kids didn't clear by 12 midnight, the Egyptian-born president of the university, who left Egypt when she was 5, was a trained economist and doesn't quite know what to do with herself right now because she has no friends on either side of the aisle. And investors, or rather, donators, people like Robert Kraft, who owns the Patriots, they're leaving in droves because they're disgusted, rightly so, by the school. Well, she's like, I'm going to put a deadline in. I'm going to make sure that everybody's going to be gone by 12 midnight. Well, everybody was still there at 12 midnight. She couldn't get rid of them. She threatened to call in the National Guard, and the teachers went nuts. And so the kids are still there. I say kids. I have a feeling there's more than just kids there. I have a feeling there's a lot of outside influences going on. So they're all still there, and they're still camped out at Columbia. They've had to shut down all classes. Think of that. So now you look at UT, and that looks like quite a crowd to me, ladies and gentlemen, right? That looks like a very large crowd indeed. And so they got themselves a problem on their hands. But you know what? I got a lot of faith in Abbott. I got a lot of faith in Texas. And I think that there is some wake-up call going on. When the University of Texas says it is time for us to get rid of our diversity, equity, and inclusion department, or we're going to make everybody go back to actually just teaching like they were supposed to do, I think that there's something to be said for that. You know, don't mess with Texas. I know UT is liberal. I know it's Austin, but you know what? Do not mess with Texas. This is going to become a bigger and bigger issue. But just shocking, shocking video coming into us very, very in the moment. This is all, again, live video. Let's turn up a little bit of what we're hearing and just listen in for a moment if we can hear anything. You know, there's a lot of anger right now on campuses. And a lot of that's been fueled by a variety of things. I mean, you can look at a generation of kids that have been taught that they should go to school and they should study gender studies and English and all these things like philosophy. You know, nothing against any of that, nothing against education. I do believe that you can be a very self-educated person, do a lot of that on your own. But everybody feels like they need to have a diploma because the left has convinced them. It's become like the military complex, right? You got the educational complex. You got kids going to school forever. They can't afford it. They're signing their lives away right on the dotted line with all this money that they borrow. And they're in that deep and they look around and they're like, wait a second, I can't get a job. There's no economy there to support me with my English degree, my PhD in gender studies. No, I'm sorry. You know what? You're not going to be able to get a job. And if you don't actually have a skill that can be used, if you look down on people, look, they look down on you. I mean, if you're an electrician, if you're a contractor, if you're a plumber, they look down on you. The left looks down on you. You must be a MAGA person, right? Half the country, those MAGA people, those deplorables, people that work for a living. They want you to have to pay for them to do this. That's pretty pathetic. And it's got to stop. And maybe this is the wake-up call. You know, they say the pendulum swings. And I think it's swung way too far.